Guys, welcome back to the Fading podcast. Today we had the honor of having Jack, the Combat Dieititan, on the podcast. Jack is a dietitian who trains elite athletes in the UFC MMA game like Leon Edwards, Izzy, Volkanovski, the Fading boys, all elite athletes, don't forget us. We got to touch on so many interesting things like the right supplements to take, how to take care of your gut, how to be healthy, organic food, buying foods in the right seasons. So many interesting things to optimize your health and start the 2024 on a high. You guys are going to love this episode. Make sure you get your notepads out, take some notes, and enjoy the episode.
Like other effects to it as well. That's why, like whenever I hear someone say the word like diet, and maybe because I'm young now and alhamdulillah I have a high metabolism and whatnot, so there's not that much of a problem. But like maybe later on I might have to have like a nutritional plan or whatever. But when people say, hey, I'm going to start a diet right now, it's like in my head, the first thing I think of, it's like BS. You've already failed before you've even started,
Yeah. I think, I don't know if you guys have it on your Instagram, but the concept that I use is like progress over perfection.
Hey, yo.
That was my when I saw that, I'm like, Sam's told the boys. Go back on my post. You
said you've been Fad Dietitian how long? 4 years?
4 years.
We've done 5.
It's been there for a while.
You guys stole it.
If Sam gave it to you, then Sam stole it off us.
Effects of low testosterone, like low mood. Like a lot of men will have, if you talk to a lot of men in their 40s or late 30s, 40s, and they'll say that increased anxiety, increased depression symptoms. So you say, because you've got to say depression's over a month. Mm-hmm. Low mood is what you'd say. So low mood, anxiety, lack of motivation, all skyrocket. Mm-hmm. And then it usually coincides with having low testosterone because as you get older,
it's sort of like an epidemic now, low testosterone with men. Like the average now is like, I don't know, they said like 50, 60 years ago it was like in the extreme levels.
Yeah, because
like
it's shit food. Shit food, lack of exercise, high stress, no recovery. Because even like this, like 75 hard's good for a short term, but I don't like that concept of things because
go hard for 2 months and then
it doesn't teach you, you're not talking about the root causes of what's going on with you. Like what's preventing you in your day-to-day life.
Short-term fix,
It's very generic
what are you actually getting to the root causes of what you struggle with? Are you actually learning about what you can implement in your life every day? Because that's easy to do for 2 months. Well, it's not easy, it's fucking hard.
True, 75 hard's not a lifestyle factor.
And it's just it's just one of these things. It's like everything you see, all those dudes being like, be better, be hard, stay hard. Look, David Goggins is buckled.
His knees, his ankles.
But he's also he's a multi-millionaire and getting flown to Panama and getting baby stem cells injected into him.
Yeah.
That's what everyone doesn't see. You don't think Donald Trump's alive because he used to drink 30 cans of Pepsi Max a day or Coke Zero?
Macca's 3 times
a day. They go down to Panama, all the countries that don't have the law. When women have abortions, they take the baby, they get the stem cells, and they inject it in any place that you need it. And then those stem cells are nothing. And they become whatever they need to become. So if you've got a bad heart, put it into the heart. It starts to recover in most cases. This is why these guys are living forever.
It's like LeBron James. They say that's one of the main
How's
reasons.
he 40 and still like
LeBron James does
dunking,
testosterone,
LeBron
growth
James,
hormone.
2 seasons ago, I think he had a borderline like near ankle season ending or whatever. He had some injury with his ankle or whatever. But his recovery, especially for his age and whatever, like the amount of years he's played in the league, and then later on but it was released that he got stem cell treatment, and it's like, it adds a bit to it, It's like a bit of a cheat code.
Back in the days, they didn't have that option.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't as common.
Yeah, he changes the game. He changes the whole horizon,
100%.
But with no further ado, Jack, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
For those that don't know, Jack's actually, I'll let you do your explanation, How would you describe yourself? Who is Jack,
Well, I'm the senior performance dietitian at TFD, also known as the Fad Dietitian. We work with probably the majority of combat sport athletes in Australia and New Zealand. At the moment, most notably, our top end clients are Israel Adesanya, Alexander Volkanovski, and Leon Edwards from England. We work with people from around the world as well. Predominantly work with combat sport athletes, but we work with a lot of different athletes now, a lot of professional runners. I have rowers, I have jockeys on my books. Mm-hmm. So basically what we do is we're just performance dietitians. So we work with athletes and now a lot of the time general population and people who just like to be healthy and who exercise a lot, optimize their nutrition and therefore optimize the performance, their recovery, and what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do as a brand now, is try to optimize people's health in general as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So now you're going more into like the mainstream market. Like before it was like elite athletes, and now you're trying to general population.
Well, we still work with a lot of elite athletes. Like a lot of my client listing is either professional athletes or amateurs coming up. But more and more as we get through, as our business evolves, we have realized that the same principles that work for the elite also work for the everyday person. And so we've created a system at TFD with myself, Jordan, and we also have Lauren and Ryan who work with us, a system which we can use the same principles and help everyone depending on what their goals are.
Yeah. Before I ask like how TFD like came to be, I just want to know just a bit about yourself, how you got yourself into being in this position. Like, obviously, like people might want to be like professional athletes, and diet is the last thing people focus about. But what drew your interest into, I guess, being a dietitian?
So like, as I was saying to you guys before, when I was younger, I was an accountant for a long time. So I started off my career when I was 19 at an accounting firm. And that whole time I started Muay Thai. I really obviously enjoyed it. Like, it was something that was, it creates a community. It was really hard. It was challenging. It was a lot of technique. And I just fell in love with like combat sports in general. Like I was doing lots of boxing and a lot of striking sports. And at the same time, I think like what the majority of people, especially males, can kind of align with was like how you looked. Like when we were younger, I think today's society, we obviously idolize muscular men and looking a certain way and being a certain way. So I was always interested of how nutrition related to this, because obviously you see guys at the gym and, I was training for a while and not seeing changes, and I realized that nutrition was such a huge part of it, and the way you ate, if you want to lose weight, you have to eat less or you have to eat a different way. And I was always researching and finding, keto diets or different diets. So I was always interested in what is the science behind it? Because now there's so many options and I've tried them all, but what's actually like the fundamental sciences, and what's the actual, like, the true way, if you would put it that way. So then I decided at 25, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to university and study exercise science, and I'll hopefully find some way adding nutrition to that. So stopped my career as accountant, and then I went back to study, which was obviously really hard because all the boys are making money, and you're going back to being a poor student, which was obviously hard. And then through that, I just kept training, and I was just kept showing interest in nutrition. I met a dietitian who worked at the university, so I went to Australian Catholic University. Met a dietitian. She kind of helped me through it, and lucky the fantastic staff at ACU gave me a position to study nutrition subjects when I wasn't actually supposed to. But then throughout that process, I became more and more interested in it. Just found it fascinating, and then was still training, and I was still at my gym in the Western Suburbs, the Ring Gym. Shout out the Ring Gym. Andy Colgrove, my coach. And just the like amalgamation between nutrition and my training, and always trying to figure out like, oh, that session sucked. What can I do next time? And those kind of things. And just kept evolving and learning. And then a few years later, I was coming to the end of my undergraduate and applying for my Masters of Dietetics. And then I met Jordan Sullivan, who is the founder of the Fad Diets, or now known as TFD. So we linked up through my coach, because he was working with Cal Potter, who's a UFC fighter who's now retired. They were actually in the middle of a weight cut, and my coach turns around and goes, hey, one of my students is doing dietetics. You guys should meet. And Jordan's like in the middle of helping a guy cut weight, being like, okay, dude, well, after this maybe. And then we went for coffee in Melbourne, because Jordan's from Brisbane. We went for coffee, and then we just clicked and became friends. And then he said, do you want to have an internship? And then the rest is really history. We started working together, doing the internship, doing all that stuff in the early days before there was all, obviously people see where you're at now and don't see that stuff. That stuff was, I was studying, doing my Masters, which you guys know is incredibly hard. I was working. I was doing my internship on top of that. It was 7 days just running around trying to do a lot of things, and then eventually finished my degree, and then for the last, say, 3-4 years, been full-time dietitian at TFD.
When did you switch from accounting to start uni again?
25. So I'm 34 now.
Was that like, because I'm about to turn 25, and that like career change, the idea, like I'm already working in my field, like I kind of just suck it up. Maybe accounting would be interesting in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like for you to take that leap, like how was that?
Terrifying. Because obviously you see all your friends starting to establish themselves. Like I was in a very well-paying job. I was very comfortable. You know, had expensive suits. I had, you know, all the things I wanted.
Really did get to you.
Yeah. No, I wanted the best of the best. I had a full wardrobe of expensive suits, and I thought I was the man. And I was just like, I'm really unhappy. Like this work is just not like, every day I was going to this job 9 to 5, and I was just finding no
joy out of it.
And I was finding, it was so just exhaustingly boring, to put it that way. For some people it's not, but for me it was just like, it wasn't like as corny as I want to make something of myself. Like I hear people say, like, you know, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But for me it wasn't that. It was like, I just want to do something that I wake up every day and I enjoy.
Yeah.
So as terrifying as it was, and trust me, going back at 25 and being covered in tattoos and being the oldest in the room was embarrassing, to be honest, because all these young guys are like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And when you're 18, you see a 25-year-old, you think they're old.
Yeah.
So it was really hard, and starting again, and I was doing like biology, chemistry, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like I haven't done this since high school, which is 7-8 years before that. So yeah, it was terrifying, but it was something that I just thought at that moment, I'm like, I need to change my life, otherwise I'm going to be perpetually unhappy.
Yeah.
And like when you were in your degree, did you know this is what you wanted, or were you just doing it and just hoping for it? Because even switching from exercise science, then to dietitian, and then now getting, I don't know, you can say lucky or however you might look at it, like getting that opportunity at the Fad Dietitian, like that really shaped what you are today.
Yeah.
If you didn't get that opportunity, who knows what type of dietitian you would have been.
Yeah, of course.
Like, and how much you might have enjoyed it. Some people have bad experiences which turns them off a certain career or job.
I think I never had a bad experience in accounting because my old boss used to say I could sell Ask of the Eskimos. That was like, he said, like, obviously I've always been like a good talker, and I've always been able to, you know, build rapport with people and build relationships. I think that's one of my strong points, is like being able to relate to people. I'm very empathetic. But I think what you're saying is a huge part of not just being as a dietitian, but I think me in general, like going back to do something that was so foreign to me was life-changing, because I'd always done everything that was comfortable for me and stuff that I was good at. And then I have to start in an area that I didn't do science in high school. I was quite a naughty kid in high school, getting kicked out of most classes. I finished high school and everything, but I never did the subjects that would challenge me. I did the subjects that were easy, because I think I was probably insecure, or I was like, you know, had things around the view of my intelligence, and then putting myself in a position where you're the amateur, you're the beginner again, and in such an environment where you feel judged, and especially at university, because you're literally graded.
Yeah.
So that's what I think has got me here today as a person, not just a dietitian, continuously putting myself in this position from 25 to now in situations that made me uncomfortable, which has now made me the dietitian, the person I am. But when I practice being a dietitian with my clients, I have that little level of empathy, because most people don't understand nutrition, or they don't have a great knowledge of nutrition. So I can understand how overwhelming and kind of scary entering a new journey would be.
Especially in an environment as well, because you got kids, 18-year-olds looking up to you, you know, and then you're in an environment where you have to go back to school. It's like, that's a whole like experience. But I was going to ask on top of that, in your accounting experience, when you're in that little tenure doing accounting, was there a moment that struck you and you're like, okay, cool, let me like flip the chapter? Or was it just that constant feeling of unfulfillment?
I think it was a feeling of unfulfillment. Like I remember being at the office and just being like a spreadsheet and just
Rat
like,
race, huh?
it was like, I was just coding. So you have like the zero account, you're just coding like 1800, 0510 was sales.
You remember all the numbers.
Remember. Now you're sitting there for hours just doing that, and you're listening to like aggressive rap while you're doing it. Like, this just doesn't make sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm literally watching a movie, trying to like just distract myself from the monotony that was my life. And I was like, just sat there. I'm like, I was watching like YouTubers at the time, and the YouTubers from 9 years ago, not the YouTubers today.
Who are you watching?
Different world, yeah.
There was a guy called TM Cycles. I don't know.
What did he do?
He was a bodybuilder dude.
Okay.
And it was just about, like, I just liked the way he lived his life. I'm like, oh, he owned his own business. True. He had this thing. He had this like swagger about him. I'm like, oh, just watching these guys live these lives that they obviously enjoy. And I was just like, I didn't even think, I wasn't like, I'm going to be the next big thing. I was just like, it was as simple as I'm going to do something that I like. And the two things I like were
Eating.
Muay Thai and eating.
Yeah.
And then I still love eating. But how like nutrition would, you know, how much of a impact it has on your body composition, how you felt, so many different things. I'm like, I've got one shot, I'm 25, I might as well just give it a shot, and now we're here.
Wow.
Well, do you have any stories of like early mistakes you used to make in nutrition, like things that you look back on, you're like, I can't believe I used to think that was the right thing?
Oh, yeah.
Meal, or like maybe the anabolic window or something that used to...
Anabolic window is a huge one. So I remember the boys who finished the gym would be stressed. Yeah. Like, we got an hour to get to Nando's and have that. And then I remember there was like two big moments. Was like, we're going to Thailand with all the boys, like 12, 13 years ago, we wanted to be shredded.
Yeah.
So we all just cut all carbs for about 3 months. Yeah. We're just eating, and we weren't even having like high fats. It wasn't a keto. It was literally just protein and lettuce.
Yeah. Carnivore and lettuce.
And
like,
you did it? Yeah. You lasted 3 months?
We lasted.
You got shredded?
But not that well. It was up and down. And then, and it was like, oh, we got there, we lost a bunch of weight, and, we all looked semi-good. But obviously it was horrific. Like, you didn't feel good the whole time.
Yeah, that's the main
and
thing.
the other thing was that when I was like 20, I wanted to be massive.
Like, so I think put on size?
Yeah, because I think now, like, these day and ages, like, you want to look like athletic. People want to look shredded but athletic.
Yeah.
But back then, it was like, I used to go to Doherty's gym.
Yeah.
Okay. That so remember, everyone was yoked. Yeah. And the big thing was being huge. So I didn't know that they were all on steroids, but I thought, like, I'm just going to eat. So I remember going, like, Uncle Joe's Kebabs right there on Sydney Road and having 2 kebabs at night after gym. So I thought, like, I just need to get really big. And I got to 103 kilos. Whoa. And I was fat as a house. I was literally had a gut. And I was like, me and my mum was like, oh, you need to calm down the eating. I was like, those are the 2 like pivotal moments where I'm like, I'm really doing something here wrong. Because one, I'm losing weight in an extreme way and I'm putting weight on an extreme way. Yeah. What's the way that I can have this as a lifestyle?
Did you grow up, like, what was your frame growing up before or when you first started training and going gym and Muay Thai?
Skinny.
You're skinny.
I was like 6 foot. I'm like 6 foot 1.5, 6'2". I was 70 kilos. So I was skinny. And I always wanted to be big. I was like, oh, I just want to be big.
And then once you got it, it's like, that's not exactly what I wanted.
But I never got to a way that was like big in a healthy way or big and that wasn't stacked with fat. Like, I got big, but then I was like, oh, this is not the greatest body composition. So it was never about, it was never about health or how I was feeling or anything like that, like energy levels. It was just all about my aesthetics. And then as I've got older, and when I was 25, I was like, well, now I'm thinking about like longevity and like I want to feel healthy. I want to like live a life that doesn't end too early and those kind of things. So it was like a journey, like anything else. Like, you learn different things. And as I got into university, then I was like, okay, this is the way it is. And then you go through university, and then you see how rigid university is. Yeah. And you see how a lot of people in specifically dietetics, because dietetics is a step above, you have to have a master's degree. So you can be a nutritionist by having a certificate from somewhere or a university undergraduate degree. Mm-hmm. And when you get into the dietetics world, everyone's very rigid.
Yeah. One way or the highway.
Yeah, it's like that. They're a lot of dietitians, I won't say all, are very very highly intelligent people. Obviously, to do a master's degree takes a level of intelligence, but very rigid, like it's got to be by the book and stuff like that. So then,
that's probably the problem with the education system overall, though. Like, because like a lot of people get in the age of 18 and they go all the way up until they get a master's or a doctor or something, but they lack that like real world experience. So when it comes down to like, you would have, by the time that you went to 120 kilos and then you were floating between 70 up and down and knowing the differences between them, that other person doing their masters would have only like just done the same thing the whole time. You know what I mean? They wouldn't have had that empathy aspect to it all.
I think a lot of times it doesn't train people to actually think for themselves.
Correct, yeah.
They just learn through the degree. So it depends what your professor teaches you.
Yeah.
A lot of times you have that respect for your professor after years of knowledge, but it's like whatever you get taught, that's what you think.
True.
But then actually, like a lot of doctors, it's hard to go to doctors for advice. A lot of times they're unhealthy themselves. So going to an unhealthy person and he's going to give you health advice, it's like, have you ever tried this? It's like, no, I've been a bit overweight my entire life. It's like,
That's
only
true.
through experience you start to realize, hey, not all calories are the same. Keto doesn't work, or whatever it is.
And that probably would have been the same for you though, like what Ashraf just said. Like a lot of the things you learnt back in your masters or whatever, a lot of it's probably changed. And plus the field's ever changing as well.
Yeah, I think it's like, I was talking to someone about this the other day. It's like it's a thing about, you obviously have to have a deep understanding of the science. You have to know the depths of physiology, and that's what we talk about. Like we'll talk about weight cutting and the kind of stuff that is not traditionally what nutritionists or dietitians do. You obviously have to have a deep understanding of the physiology, because it can be quite dangerous if you do it incorrectly. But just as a nutrition as a whole, is that when you learn in such a rigid system, you kind of forget the human element. So you can read everything in the books. You can Google right now how many calories I should eat, and it'll pop up numbers.
Yeah.
So technically, you don't really need
Diet.
a nutritionist or a dietitian, because you can generally find that information. But what's missing is the human element, which is why working with clients on a daily basis, what we do is like you're amalgamating your education, your deep understanding of the science of nutrition, plus your real world experience and your understanding of the human element. What I mean by like that, I know it sounds very like ambiguous, but what I mean by that is like you can plug numbers and you can tell someone to eat something, but if I don't know how he likes to eat or what his triggers are, or is he someone who doesn't have an appetite? Is he someone who is an emotional eater? Like, you have to understand the whole picture to be able to help someone.
I assume culture as well is a big deal.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying to you before. Like culturally, like my background's like Irish Australian, but a lot of my friends were Lebanese background, Somali, and the way that everyone eats is completely different. Like as I said, like my Lebanese friends, a lot of them are big boys now, but because when you're happy, you eat. When you're sad, you eat. When you celebrate, you eat.
Yeah.
So it's always this concept of consumption. I see some of my friends will watch the UFC together.
Yeah.
And there'll be like as much food for like 50 people, and they're just mindlessly eating. They don't even know they're doing it. They're probably down like 1,000 calories of like lollies, chips, and because they're just talking, boom, boom. They don't even know they're happening. So it's like, if you don't understand like a person on a individual level, of course, but you don't understand the human behaviors and what happens and what drives them to eat, what drives them to restrict, what drives them to feel a certain way, then you won't successfully help them reach whatever goal they want to reach.
How was it for you, the experience in the early days with clients? Like, I assume going into it, you probably had one mindset, and then you're surprised with certain things, like dealing with people.
Yeah, because I remember like you get a client, you start, and then you get all the information. You have to create a nutrition plan, and it was just like, these are the numbers that this should be hitting, and this is going to equal this, and this, if you eat like this, you're going to lose weight. And then you sit there and you're like, well, it's not working. Why aren't they losing weight? So you're like, I've done something wrong. But then you move to now, and my first question will be, is it's like, how compliant have you been with the plan?
Yeah.
I'm not judging you. I just need to know what is like, actually, I've been following by 80% of the time, and 20% of the time I went on the weekend with the boys and I went for a barn burner of a meal. And you're like, okay, well,
that would make sense.
if we look over a 7-day period, you're actually in a calorie surplus, not in the deficit. So that's just what's happening. So when I first started, I was kind of rigid.
Well, you look internal.
Yeah, I was like, because I was like, I've just started. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe my numbers are wrong.
What's going wrong?
Yeah, like this is supposed to work. And then after time, you realize that the human element is so massive. And then you start working with, working with females is different, because then you got to think about hormonal levels, what their drivers to eat and stuff are. So it becomes from a rigid process to a really kind of fluid experience, because you have to really understand that things change. So you get a guy who's for 8 weeks, he's killing it, like 75 hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's really motivated. And after 8 weeks, that person you thought was like the messiah of dieting has fallen off, and he might never come back to you again, even though you've done the right thing. So it's just like, find this process of treating everyone on an individual basis. And because going back to that accounting, when I was working in accounting, I had lots of clients there. you learn to empathize and learn to understand that person. So then you can help them on an individual level rather than just being like, because anyone can hand out diet plans. Like, this is what you should eat, have these calories, track your calories, and then they can go off. But most of them will fall off, or they'll do a challenge. Like, how many new, diet challenges are there?
Oh, these guys love a challenge.
This, that.
But you're always looking for something, because at the end of the day, we're not looking at what's the underlying issues. I wouldn't even say issues, because it's not even an issue. The way you eat is not an issue, generally. If you don't have any health conditions or you don't have any disorders, it's not an issue. It's just that what is your inherent eating pattern, and how is that affecting where you want to be?
True. Yeah.
So it's like, if we can, what I tell to people, as corny as it sounds, that nutrition is a 365-day-a-year process.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like to work with people on long, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create an eating pattern for you which honors all your cravings, which honors the way you like to eat, and something you can sustain all year round. And at different times, we might have more food freedom, so you can go out with the boys 3 nights a week and eat whatever you want. And there might be times where, especially in a fight camp, where we have to make sure we're really strict because we need to lose the weight to get to the scales. So creating a foundation is what we kind of aim for, and then we talk about how we psychologically accept that we need to change our eating habits at different times to make sure that aligns with our goals.
Would you call that a diet?
No, we call it dieting because it's just an easy way to conceptualize for people.
Gotcha.
Well, that's why we call it, like, I don't call it diet plan, I call it nutrition plan.
Nutrition plan, yeah.
So it's just like how, like, that's why I describe it as we're creating a foundation of your nutrition for you to be able to follow all the time. So I don't want people to feel like I hate good and bad foods. That's stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going to always, if I go, you can't have that, the one thing he's going to want is the thing that I said he can't have.
Yeah.
So if you really like pancakes, for example, I'll put pancakes in your plan. So it's psychologically, you're thinking about like, oh, well, I'm dieting, theoretically. I'm losing weight, but I'm eating pancakes. He's giving me a Lindt chocolate ball per day. You're getting all the things you kind of want. So it's not this concept of this is bad, this is good. It's that everything has its place.
Yeah.
But where do we find the one that honors what we want to achieve?
That's the thing with diet. It has that like notion attached to it that it's like you have to live a certain way, eat a certain way. And within that like rigidity, then people don't last on it for like too long. And then they end up hating themselves, and that has like other effects to it as well. That's why like whenever I hear someone say the word like diet, and maybe because I'm young now and alhamdulillah I have a high metabolism and whatnot, so there's not that much of a problem. But like maybe later on I might have to have like a nutritional plan or whatever. But when people say, hey, I'm going to start a diet right now, it's like in my head, the first thing I think of, it's like BS. You've already failed before you've even started, you know?
Yeah. I think, I don't know if you guys have it on your Instagram, but the concept that I use is like progress over perfection.
Hey, yo.
You just stole that.
That was my, when I saw that, I'm like, Sem's told the boys. Go back on my post.
You said you've been Fad Dietitian how long? 4 years?
4 years.
We've done 5.
It's been there for a while.
You guys stole it.
If Sem
You
gave it
guys
to you,
stole
then Sem stole it off us.
Sam was one of our first guests.
No, but I think that's the whole thing. Everyone tries to be perfect now.
True.
That's like you're either perfect or you're a failure. So then you look on Instagram, like we were saying before, like David Goggins is like sitting there and making you feel guilty. Yeah, making you feel guilty for not doing something. So no one's resting, no one's recovering. Everyone's just like, I have to do this. Don't listen to your body.
Yeah.
There is it's definitely like a middle ground. Like there's sometimes where you should train when you don't want to train because you're just basically, maybe the motivation's not there. But it's also this, I need to be this person all the time is unrealistic and you'll burn out. That's why these challenges don't work. Because imagine I told you do 75 hard for 12 months. There's zero chance of doing it.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm starting to feel it towards this. Imagine doing it more than one round,
Yeah.
Look, you need to have things to look forward to. I know, for example, on the discipline department, see how we were talking before about going for runs? The idea of going for a 10K run for an hour and the idea of playing soccer for an hour is two different things. I'll run 10Ks in an hour and I'll come back and I'm like, man, I'm so disciplined. I just ran an hour. Or I'll go play soccer for an hour and I'll finish and be like, man, that was so much fun. And generally speaking, you play for an hour and a half, 2 hours, you might run the same distance, burn the same amount of calories, but one of them is fun, enjoyable, and I'd want to do it again. And the other one is, oh, I'm so disciplined. And then another day, your body's hurting, you're not going to want to do it. It's just like, it's like this fighting that you're doing. That's what I think the term diet sometimes does.
Yeah.
It makes you think it's just restrictive. I only have one choice.
Yeah, because it's with everything, but especially nutrition cops it the most. That's the easiest one to like fall off from. Because you can go, like, I remember when I was younger trying to lose weight, and I'd go out and be like, I'd go have like a full Nando's meal, and I'd be like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
So now I'm not going to do whatever I want.
And it bog you down?
Yeah, back then I'm like, I've ruined it. So then I'm like, let's go, boys. Let's go to let's get ice cream. Let's do the whole thing. Yeah, do the whole thing. And then now it's just like, oh, well, I can definitely have that.
Yeah.
Like my friends who I grew up with see the amount I eat, and I'm like, man, how's that possible? You can eat that much.
Yeah, same thing. You just all had Nando's and feeling bogged down by that.
Yeah.
I envy you, do you get what I mean? Because if I could have 5 Nando's in one shot, like I would, just so I can retain the weight or something, you know?
Yeah, but it's the whole thing. It's like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, the problem is it's the mentality towards most things now.
True.
It's
Do
like
you count calories? Like, what's your perspective now after studying, experience, trial and error?
I think you should count calories at some point in your life for like a few weeks. Like now I can generally know what I'm doing. Like a bit cheeky with that's a tablespoon. It's definitely not a tablespoon. It's about 4. But I'm saying like I generally know what I'm doing because I've done it for so long. But I encourage people like to at different points do the track so you can understand. Because you can look at a plate and be like, that's a small meal. But you've put heaps of mayonnaise or something that is actually 800 calories instead of being 500 calories. So to understand portion sizing, to understand the content of certain foods is a good idea. But long-term tracking, I think, leads to food obsession.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because it's like, with gym, a lot of times body dysmorphia or food. That's how you look at every meal as like calories. Yeah. Like just doing it long enough to be able to guesstimate, like eyeball it.
Yeah, and that's the other problem is it's about when you start tracking, you start being eating like, oh, calories. Well, I can get rid of this and I can put this in. So you start to like compensatory behavior. So you start justifying your choices. Which is not bad because you can still have all those things, but you'll maybe set up a system where you're eating like, food that honors not only your goals, but your health goals. But then you start to do things where you're being a bit cheeky and you're like, well, I can have 7 donuts and not have my lunch and
fasting.
Yeah.
7 donuts and a steak for dinner.
That's human psychology. It's always trying to find shortcuts.
Exactly. And that's another thing about nutrition plans or diet plans is that everyone wants results now.
Yeah.
And when you're obviously seen on social media, the instant results, which never happen instantly, but they always say, oh, come to me in 30 days, you're going to have abs and all these kind of things. But it's that kind of instant gratification. This takes time. And it's a really frustrating process because you're fundamentally changing your eating patterns in a lot of ways, but you're also challenging your psychology that's been inbuilt since you were young. Because the way you eat, I guarantee, is very similar to the way your family eats.
True.
Or your mentality to food is very similar to your mum and dad or your sisters. Or if you had a bodybuilder brother who was older than you probably idolized him maybe. Or your parents were emotional eaters, you may be an emotional eater. Like it's in these processes of changing through nutrition, you're obviously changing your physical patterns of the way you're eating, but you're also challenging the psychological component, which is a lot harder for people to accept.
True. Going back to like you doing what you love and now moving out of like accounting, how's it been now working with, because also you love the fighting aspect of things, but also working with elite athletes like Leon Edwards, you said.
So Geordie works with them, with Leon, Izzy and Volk in person. I usually come and support him on those fight weeks. But I think working with fighters and working with elite athletes is incredibly stressful, especially in the fight game. Okay. Like if I take you guys to a weight cut, you'll probably be like, what's going on here?
I've seen weight cut videos with guys like Khabib and all of that kind of stuff. And
he's not doing it properly though.
Yeah, the way they do it in terms of,
he doesn't work with us, so he's doing it wrong.
Like the whole blanket thing and all that kind of stuff. Can you
I have videos of Sam if you want to see them.
Yeah, can you run us through?
Sam said he would take us through one of them.
Yeah, you can come. Yeah, so when obviously me and Sam are quite close, so I've done like all his weight cuts over the last 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. So what you're doing, so I don't want to digress if it's a big question, but I'm saying it's obviously doing a diet plan for people who want to lose weight is like obviously not that stressful. If you know what you're doing, you know how to support someone, you can kind of, if they do what they're supposed to do and you support them correctly, it works. But the fighting aspect of it is that you're going into a fight week, so the 7 days before, and you've got to now, you've hopefully manipulated enough body fat, so your scale weight is a certain level, and then you have to manipulate pure water for 6 days out of your system. And then on the final day, which is the weigh-in day, you usually get the rest of it out to weigh in on the scales.
True. Yeah.
Pressure, and you have to hit the exact number that you want. Or then
100% on the button. And this is what I was saying back to why we've through our Instagram, like people get annoyed at us, but we've always stressed you should have like a qualification as a dietitian or have a deep understanding of physiology, because you're putting the organs under a lot of pressure, specifically the kidneys, because the kidneys are like basically the powerhouse of your hydration status. Mm-hmm. So what we do is, obviously there's a lot of techniques. I won't bore you with it, but it's like water loading. If you've ever seen guys drink lots of water throughout a few days, because it tricks the body into thinking it's got too much water on board. So you pee out more than you drink. So your body weight starts to go down. You cut your carbs, you cut your fiber, you cut your salt. So your body starts naturally getting rid of some of the water. And on the final day, you usually say, Sam, we have 1.5 kilos to go. He's already obviously somewhat dehydrated because we've manipulated water. And then that final day, that's when you see that stuff on
the blanket.
So we get
sauna.
So we don't like sauna, because you can use a sauna, but if you guys been in the sauna, like how overwhelmingly hot it is. And usually if you're at the rec center, there's some random guy who's not it's a bit odd, and he starts like throwing water on the thing and making it like 400 degrees.
Yeah, he's got a speedo on.
Yeah, he's a bit weird, he's a bit overweight, and he's sweating on you. Trying to talk to you while your mate's dying on it. It's trying to cut weight. That is the story, that's true. But we go in the bath, we heat it up to a certain temperature, and then we start the sweat process. And this is going back to the individual part, like knowing someone. So the way me and Sam do it is very different to the way his teammate Joe do it.
Yeah.
So when me and Sam starts with a certain song, it's called So Mi So. He plays that song for the first, so we're in the bath about 15, 20 minutes, he plays that certain song. Then we take him out of the bath, then we wrap him. So the bath is just to raise the internal temperature enough to induce the sweating response.
Yeah.
Then we move them to the wraps, which you see, because that's just insulating them.
Yeah.
So you're keeping the internal temperature high enough so they keep sweating, but you're not in that really hot environment.
Yeah.
They sit there for 20 to 30, and then we play. Then Sam will play. He'll be like, DJ, put the song on. That's me. And I'll play a song, and we sit there. I wipe his brow to make sure I'm calculating his sweat rate. So when I wipe it, it comes back. I know roughly what his sweat rate is, and then I can kind of understand the level of dehydration he is at. Mm-hmm. And then we weigh him, and then we see how close he is. Usually he'll get done in one round, but there might be some days we've had short notice fights, we've had to cut more weight. So it might be 2 rounds, might be 3 rounds in some cases.
So if let's just try, he's fighting at, let's say, 145 or something, up until the fight week, are you aiming for that 145, or you're aiming for a separate weight?
No, so you don't. The reason you cut weight, it's called like legal. They call it legal cheating.
Yeah, it is. It's got a lot of controversy.
Yeah, because you're pulling water out of the body.
Yeah.
To weigh in a certain weight, and then you have 24 to 36 hours to rehydrate. So usually, for example, we might start the fight week at around 71, 72 kilos, and he's got to weigh in at 66.2. Yeah. So he's manipulating about 5 kilos. This is a rough estimate, so I'm not going to give you the actual numbers because that's all secret. Yeah. But he's manipulating that much water weight, and then after he rehydrates, he might be 3 kilos above what he started the week at, because the body super compensates and holds onto the water. True. So when you're fighting, especially in grappling, you have the advantage because you're heavier. True. But everyone's doing it, so it's like kind of like
there's a lot of controversy around that.
Yeah, it's very. It can be like, that's why the reason we got where we got is because we have so much hands-on experience. We've done it for so long. Like, I can't tell you how many in-person weight cuts I've done, and we've collected all that data, and we now know. Like, I can tell, like, from my, like, I can tell what people should be and how it's going to go, and how much. I can estimate off the top of my head how much people will lose in a bath and a wrap. Mm-hmm. And then you've also got to understand that different people lose different amounts of weight. Like, for example, I have this guy, and he's like, he's West African, and a lot of like Africans will hold more water in some cases than other nationalities because they have more muscle mass. So that you can kind of make these like internal decisions about how they cut weight, because you know that even on that specific like nationality basis, that some will hold more water, some will get rid of more water. It's all very, intricate thing. But yeah, it's very dangerous if done incorrectly. That's why we spent so many years creating these systems to make sure that,
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. How about, I wanted to, actually, let's finish off with this, like working with these elite athletes and the pressure, like with these guys on the world level, like people, Izzy, Volkanovski, Leon Edwards, like people know these guys. How much pressure does that put on you? Like,
so obviously, like this, like I always put pressure on myself in terms of doing my job correctly, no matter what level they're at. But then, like Jordan and myself have been in some situations where, like, obviously you're at the top level, like we've been Vegas, and it's obviously for belts and stuff like that. So if they don't weigh in, they lose 20% of their purse. So when you're talking about the top of the top, that's potentially 100.
And all three of those guys you mentioned are champions. Or
it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars if they miss. So it's obviously enormous pressure. Like
You're fired if you don't do it.
the night before the final weight cut, like we don't sleep. I'll be in bed just like calculating numbers in my head. Like, we're sitting there, and we get up in the morning at 5. Me and Geordie haven't slept, red eyes, and we're like, get it done. Everyone's like, great job, and we're sitting there like, and it takes about 4 days to recover because we're just like sitting there, just like all the stress is just.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think.
What's been the funniest story like during that process? Working with those guys.
I think the funniest, not the funniest story, probably the most horrific story was when me and Geordie first started. It was like, this is years ago. It was a fight up in Queensland, and he flew me up. So we want to do the first one together. Yeah, this is the the first big test for us, or for me, because I was joining him. And we get there, we start cutting away. It's all going well, and I really haven't facilitated one like by myself at this point. He was there, obviously, we're doing it together, but I've not been in this situation before. And then halfway through, the generator of this place we were cutting weight just dies. So the bath couldn't get up. The heat just dies. And we're like, what are we going to do? This athlete's got ages to cut. So then we've put them in a car. We've driven to some random boxing gym at midnight, put him in a sauna. It's not working. Got her out to another location, put her in a bath, and then we end up being what's supposed to be a 3-4 hours, supposed to be done by 9 p.m. was 6 in the morning. Oh, so it was because it was just running around trying to find bars, calling people at 12 at night, whatever. And then when we dropped her off, and she had a couple hours before weigh-in, so we put her with her partner, and we went to the beach. It was a Burleigh beach, I still remember it. And we had coffee, and we sat there, and like just in silence, just looking at the beach. And Joy turns around and goes, that's pretty wasn't it? I'm like, yeah, I was sitting there. That was my moment of like, I'm like, should I do this? Like, is this what it is? And obviously that was an extreme case, but that was probably the most intense moment. Yeah. And then from there's just been like, there's been a lot of stressful times. There's a lot of different things that happen. I remember one girl was flying me for a PFL fight in Atlanta, and then we didn't get our visas. So we end up being 3 days late, and then we get there, we land, we check in, and we've got 24 hours to make weight, and there's nothing is going right, and we ended up getting it done. But you can imagine just like flying over there. I'm just sitting in my head being like, well, we've got 24 hours, and then doing this stuff, making sure the bath, and then American baths don't get that hot in some places, so you're doing all this stuff, figuring it out, kettles going there, and then I'm like, got it done, super stressful. And then Joy's like, you got to fly to Vegas. I flew to Vegas, and we had to cut weight with Izzy and Volk. And there was like another situation was just like the stress around it. Like all the people see, like we're pretty like stone faced. Like, yeah, it's all good. But it's obviously an incredibly stressful time. And even the locals saying like, I still want my guys to be healthy and safe. So my phone's, to the unhappiness of people in my life, my phone's always going on.
Buzzing,
Yeah, so buzz. Because fighters, obviously, you need to give them, this is not just a normal diet plan for people. This is like their life, especially when they're trying to make it to the UFC.
Dietitians would be like one of the most important coaches they have in their corner.
Yeah, you become really close. What I mean, Sam, we started off at a professional friend, relationship, and now we're obviously really close friends. But that's probably why we're so close friends, because we started off in a position where we're just like working together to make a fight, and then obviously you do weight cuts together. They put all their trust in you, like, hey man, I got to make weight. Take over, and then you take over, you get them on way, and then you build that friendship that, that's why it's unique about this job, is that a lot of the people you work with become your really close friends, and you become really close community with each other, because you don't want them to hurt themselves.
Definitely.
Have you done weight cutting yourself? Have you been through all that?
Incidentally, no, yes, but not directly, but incidentally, like many times I because what we like to do, especially at the start, I don't do it as much often, but at the start, like I won't let the guys jump in the sauna unless I'm there. So one time, do you want another story?
No, he hit us with all the
So
stories.
one time we're in Gold Coast, and I had like 3 or 4 guys cutting weight, and then we were in the sauna, getting it done. I'm in the sauna with them. Started at 5 in the morning. The weigh-ins were at 11. 5 in the morning, we're doing it, and then the sauna dies, and I'm like, of course I did.
You love a dead sauna.
I love it. I love when something goes, the hot water system, sauna dies, and then I call my mate. I'm like, do you have a sauna at your house? He lived down the corner. He's like, yeah, come. We did the sauna back and forth because they're getting hot and cold, whatever. I was in there from 5 till 10 a.m. And I was in there the whole time. I was going out for a bit, and at the time I had this internal promise to myself that I'm not going to drink water until they have, which is now is stupid looking back. But for 5 hours, and I had an hour left. I'm like, they're all waiting, and someone calls me. It's my friend who owns a gym. He's like, my guys can't get it off. Can you help? And I'm like, come here, I'll get it off. Sat in the sauna for another 45 minutes. And then, so I was 5 hours and 45 minutes in the sauna total. And I think I lost just as much weight as some of the boys. So I walked up, they're all weighing in. I'm sitting there going, everyone's like, you don't look too good. I'm like, you think? I'm like, I've been in the sauna for 6 hours with the boys.
At the Thailand
Yeah.
instead of 3 months.
Yeah.
No water.
But yeah, there's a lot of different things. But I think like what you were saying before, like you have to go through the trenches to be able to understand what they're going through in a way.
Same as, like you said, with giving food plans, like understanding the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
Like if you literally think the person's a robot and it's going to stick to no one's going to stick to 100% of a diet or nutrition plan. And you have to understand that, and you start to understand, okay, you know that, for example, certain cultures will have family gatherings once a week. They're not going to be able to come with their Tupperware container and eat that,
100%.
you know?
True,
So
yeah.
A lot of people like if you go to a dietitian university course, they're all white girls.
Blonde hair.
Blonde hair, white girls. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but
Yeah.
there's like culturally, I wouldn't say that a lot of people, again, I'm generalizing, but a lot of people aren't raised in areas of multiculturalism,
Yeah.
so they don't really understand the intricacies of that kind of stuff. Like, you know, certain things. I remember someone was like talking about they got a diet plan and they were Islamic and they were talking about the person put like pork and didn't kind of understand it or something like that. It was like a full understanding. They didn't even know what halal meant. So it's just like you have to like, yeah, it's a very intricate thing about this world is understanding Australia is incredibly multicultural and to understand that like even cultural can be a huge element to your nutrition. So understand that element of things, because you asked me like, was nutrition plans differ?
Yeah.
So obviously you got to understand the basics. Like,
are you a fan of any popular trends, like diet trends, we'll say like intermittent fasting, keto, carnivore? Like, are you a fan of anything, or is it just straight calories?
no, I don't think. I
Calorie
think it's
counting?
all like if it's a strict way of eating, it's not sustainable. And in my opinion, I think some people who may be extremists could do it for the rest of their lives. But then maybe like a carnivore might suit you, but then you might do carnivore and then your health markers might go berserk. I think it's just like you can use certain elements. Like if you prefer to eat red meat, you prefer eggs, you prefer to eat really like what they used to call paleo, like really like, you know, very basic, then you can do that, but make sure you have a balance. But just you can use the way you like to eat or the way you think you want to eat, but do it in a way that kind of reflects overall health and reflects, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with vegetables. And
Yeah, there's a
rice
lot wrong,
and-
but yeah. No.
yeah.
I
how
tried my
about
greens. Greens shake.
That'd be the worst. You ever here in Thailand? I had my greens.
Yeah, this guy's the only one that brought greens on a Thailand trip, and I think he was the only one that was like.
I take zinc
You can get
tablets.
sick.
I take I don't know. You
Yeah.
might tell me later, but I take zinc. I take greens. I take This guy had stomach. This guy got sick. Everyone got
No,
sick.
mine
and
was
I was
different,
the only one that
What
was
were we
getting
eating
sick.
though?
No,
Depends what
mine
you're
was-
eating.
We're all eating the same food.
No, yeah, true. Mine was different.
Iron
though.
gut over here.
I never got sick. Hey, I never got sick in Thailand. I only had a reaction to something. That's different. Hey, that's
this
different.
Guy, you know, Feasty Island.
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna come because he said my stomach or something.
No,
Wasn't
no. That was the gym.
Just get a
day.
boat set.
My stomach just had a reaction because we went to this amazing restaurant and it had the best food in the world. Yeah, and then that same night I vomited it out. You know what I mean? And my stomach wasn't feeling the best.
That's Thai belly. Everyone gets Thai belly.
Yeah, but it wasn't
Not
to the
everyone.
point where like
the
like,
greens.
I'm
You
in bed.
didn't get like any like.
Even barley belly. I went traveling January 40th.
Did you get diarrhea at any point? That still counts.
Hey, but
He
I
was
had
actually
I had
fine,
constant.
Even Philippines. I got some tablets that I take even when I go traveling.
You're gonna give him advice.
Zinc.
It's not.
No, supplements are good. No, it's good. It's good.
That's true. That's true. And but there's like I did research. Like some people that travel, they say I take this thing. I can show you it. It's like called Host Defense My Immunity. And someone took it and they go, whenever I go traveling, I take it. I took it. I traveled 40 days. Like we go Saudi. Like we go on our Umrah trip. And everyone that goes gets sick. I went there. I went Bali, Malaysia.
You didn't get sick in
You
Saudi?
get sick. Yeah.
Okay, I respect
40
that.
days
Then.
of
I
travel.
respect that
Yeah.
So
because
you get all these people. I don't know. It worked. Maybe it's
Nah,
placebo,
some
but
people
I didn't
don't.
get
Some
sick.
people don't get like. There's obviously
Yeah.
an element, but if you have good gut health, you may be able to fight off bacteria
Yeah.
better. than
yeah,
others.
I actually want to speak about gut health in a second. But just going back to the fads that Ashraf was talking about. Intermittent fasting you don't rate? Because it's not really a diet, it's a way of life, isn't it?
Depends what you're using it for. Like sometimes you can use it strategically, like if you're not training in the morning and you're wanting to like shorten your eating window so you can eat more in a shorter time frame. But again, if say you'd want to lose weight, it's all about how many calories you eat. So a calorie deficit is what determines. And they used to think that intermittent fasting, like cell autophagy, which is like cell death of bad cells and regeneration of new cells because your body's not digesting, so it has this process. That doesn't happen in the traditional 16-hour window. It happens with this new...
Water fast? Is like
the new Gary Breckett life. He says some outrageous stuff.
Oh, that guy that wants to live forever.
72 hours.
Of
just water. Just water for 72 hours.
Is this the one Dana White went on?
Yeah, and everyone's doing it now.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I just think that like there's nothing, like eat the way you want to eat. I just think that like, it's like what's sustainable, what actually like get data. Like do something and check your bloods. Do, like saying ambiguous statements like I feel the best I've ever felt. Is that because you've changed your diet to this, newfound, religion technically? Yeah. Or is it the fact you've went from eating like a pig and eating like Maccas and all this stuff and all this processed food and you've cut the processed food out and you've just started eating whole foods?
Yeah.
So if you did that same thing but had vegetables, carbohydrates, but of whole foods, you probably would have the same outcome. It's called an elimination diet.
Yeah.
You've just eliminated stuff, but they've eliminated everything other than eggs, butter, raw milk, which is dangerous in itself sometimes.
Yeah. Not a fan of raw milk?
Raw milk?
Yeah.
If you can get it fresh enough, the reason they homogenize it is because of transport between the cow and...
Wait, how raw are we talking? Like straight from the cow?
Well, you can buy like homogenized, pasteurized at Woolies. That's $7 for a litre and a bit. I was going to get that because I was going to ask you if there's a way to suss if you're... like any blood test to tell you if you're lactose intolerant or if you have...
You would know if you're lactose intolerant, but real quick.
Yeah, okay.
No, but, but you got to realise this is the whole thing with another one we talk about if you want to go deep on lactose.
Of course. Yeah.
Is that yogurt and cheese are generally low in lactose because they're fermented. So if you look at YoPro, get YoPro yogurt, right? Everyone loves YoPro. It's high in protein.
I'm a Chobani guy, but yeah, go on. Sorry, bro.
15 grams, 98 calories. Come on, bro.
20 YoPro before.
How do you memorize these numbers, bro?
No, honestly,
that's my...
It's on the packet, man.
Yeah. But that if you look on it, it says the lactose content because yogurt is incredibly low, and they even add the lactase enzyme. So they add the enzyme in it. So if you don't have it, and you can actually go pop a pill, you can buy it. It's called lactase. Anything that ends with A's is an enzyme. So you have that, and you can have. So guys who like ice cream who are lactose intolerant try to pop a few of those and eat some ice cream.
That works.
It can work, but you would know. But a lot of things aren't that high in lactose. Like you can actually, if you look at it, a lot of people can tolerate, even lactose intolerant people, a very low amount, they can still tolerate a certain amount. It's smaller than most people, but you'll generally know because if you are lactose intolerant, you'll
you'll clear
bloating everything.
How about for, because sometimes people, which question does everyone want to ask? Okay, we'll go back to before we were chatting about with like all calories, like not all calories are the same because like you said, if you replace it with whole foods, it's a very different thing. For some people just looking like, my goal, I lose weight at 2,000 calories and I'm just going to eat whatever I want for that 2,000 calories. What do you normally say to people that have that perspective?
Well, it depends what you want your outcomes to be. Like what's your
health,
goals?
How you want to feel as well?
Yeah, like if you just want to, like you can literally, like there's a famous study, like a professor goes, just ate Twinkies. Literally just ate Twinkies for an extended period of time.
And lost weight?
In a calorie deficit, he lost weight. It's like, see?
Yeah.
So it's just that you can generally eat like the same caloric amount. A Twinkie, you can have like a full meal, Yeah. So it depends what your outcomes are, like what you want your outcomes to be. Yeah, if you want to be in a deficit but not feel horrific, and you want to, feel good in training, you want your skin to be good, you want your gut health to be good, which we want to talk about. But like that's the whole thing. You want to, there's certain food advice from university. You can Google it, which tells you, have this, because the micronutrients. So if you're going to have a diet that's in the calorie deficit, but it's all processed, the micronutrients aren't going to be present, which is not going to give you the optimal health you're looking for. And you can pop as many multivitamins as you want, but it's not going to offset a bad diet. That's what we talk about supplements, is like supplements, it shouldn't supplement a bad diet. They're just a 1% to add to an already good foundational baseline.
What supplements do you take?
I take fish oils. Multivitamin, vitamin D and K2. And
Multivitamins in like the one that's got it all.
yeah, so I'm gonna do a men's multivitamin of fish oil because I don't have fatty fish.
Yep.
Do you look at like the EPA of how much fish oil you take, or not really?
If you buy certain brands, like I'd buy bioceuticals, which you can only buy behind the counter. So you have to ask the pharmacist. So they're farmers,
High dosage.
they're practitioner only. So you can't buy them off the internet because they're dosed enough to be what should be strong enough for you. So yeah,
Because
multivitamins.
Huberman says like 2,000 EPA, which a lot of dosages are like 5-6 tablets.
Yeah,
which is hard.
and that's what you
Like-
think. If you buy cheap products,
Like, yeah.
they're going to have that. So you have to, on the back, it will have 3 tablets 3 times a day because it's trying to get you to buy more. So if you buy a good product of a good price, it's usually generally higher dose and less.
Okay. So fish oil, multivitamin. You said
Vitamin
vitamin D.
D.
Do you know how much vitamin D you take a day?
Probably load. I only do like 2,000 IUs a day.
Okay.
Even in summer, you take it.
I work from home, so I don't really get. It's Melbourne.
Okay.
We're raining.
that's
Yeah,
true.
you're
But
gonna need it either way.
For the African boys, though, you guys should be taking it.
That
year-round.
was
You
the
can't-
thing.
You can't synthesize.
Yeah,
the
that's
Somalian community has got a huge problem with that.
You know, I actually
Somalian women, sorry.
Somali women. A lot of them. Shout out to my Somali women, by the way, out there. Yeah, anemic.
Yeah,
Anemic, and that's obviously, you know, it all goes back to what you were saying before earlier. You know, when you're making that dietitian plan or whatever, you have to make it specifically for like that person. You know,
that's why we ask for bloods too. But it's like that's what we're saying about even once when we're first working with Sem, and Sem's like of lighter complexion than say yourself, and he still was low.
yeah,
'Cause when you have that much, when you have that skin tone, it's hard for you to synthesize it because you don't absorb as much.
the darker that it
The
is,
darker is the harder.
Do you know
it
how
is.
much they should be taking? Because I know like
No, it depends. You got. That's why you have
check.
to get your bloods done.
blood test,
And that's why I
say
say and women, obviously, Islamic women, African
they-
Islamic women, because they don't have, you don't have the chance to be in the sun.
yeah.
You know, a lot of time.
Any girls that wear the
true.
scarf and cover up, it's a
Yeah.
bit difficult.
Yeah,
and that combines with also like magnesium and stuff. And
yeah.
when
So
you're
there's certain
taking that-
different like things like we were saying about like blood tests, and you've got to look at it like people of African descent. You have to look at the blood tests a bit differently to people of white descent because it's the numbers are a bit different. So
It's
you
funny
have to
because
understand.
I think as a Somali, the first supplement that you ever learn of is vitamin D.
Yeah,
You know what I
100%.
mean? No one knows the reason behind it until recently when I learned about it. But like no one knows the reason behind it, how much you should be taking it. But just because some person said you should be taking it.
It was a huge study of a lot of Somali people moved to like Nordic countries like Switzerland, Sweden, and stuff like that.
The Scandinavian and
Scandinavian,
that country,
so like a lot of those countries have notoriously low levels of sunlight, and they were saying that was actually affecting certain the birthing of some children. They're coming out with conditions.
I heard of that. Like
you should
that's
look
why
at that study.
autism rates.
Yeah,
could
it was
be
a
bit-
high.
yeah.
It was a high level of autism in Somali children in those countries, and they think it may be correlated with vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah, I remember Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
Yeah.
She was speaking about that, and there was like a paper that was released, and I was like, "This is the most interesting thing." I ended up reading.
So you gotta be hyper aware. So I always get your vitamin D
Specific
checked.
to
So
you.
there's no point like super dosing.
Yeah.
There's no point dosing something you don't
Need.
don't need as well because you just that's why he
So
becomes.
do you
fluorescent.
recommend supplements from the start with your clients? Like
I do the basics. Like I think I'll go. Do you have fatty fish? Do you eat salmon or mackerel or something? No one eats mackerel. Have you smelt mackerel?
Even
What's
enough
what's
fish.
macro?
It's like canned fish. It's
Like even
it's like a
sardines
sardine.
and
It's like a
stuff. Sardines
sardine.
is
It's like
such high.
it's got
Ashraf probably
it's the fish with the little bones because you're having.
oh, okay, yeah, I doubt.
So they
people-
smell and
it's
then
not
and the
common.
salmon, the fatty fish. So if you don't have that in your diet, you should supplement with fish oils.
So most people.
Multivitamin, I say, as a like if you've got the money to have as like a baseline. So the fish, those are probably the two. Vitamin D in specific situations.
Magnesium, zinc, anything, creatine.
Depending
greens.
creatine if you train, it's obviously performance benefits. But if you're a fighter, you should definitely because it's a huge thing about the cognitive benefits of it, and obviously also brain health. If you get a concussion, the first thing you do on a concussion protocol is have a real high amount of creatine for a few days. So we tell our clients who are fighters or who get any sports that you have the potential of like brain trauma to have creatine. So like performance supplements, like the performance supplements, I usually go creatine. If you do high intensity, beta alanine, and then beetroot juice is a vasodilator. So you only go the guys at the gym.
Cardiovascular, yeah.
Yeah, one of those pump formulas.
Yeah.
Pump formulas is just a vasodilator, and it usually comes from. If you look at it, it will be like beetroot extract.
Do you know who JJ Redick is? He's a famous basketball player. He's got his own podcast, and he says he
They
used
look quite similar a little bit. I see a bit of similarity.
he
You
just-
see it, yeah?
No, I look like Hamish from Hamish and Andy.
Yeah.
he's now
Oh!
See?
Now he sees it. That's
Yeah.
right.
Sorry,
he's just a really popular podcaster, and now he's like a TV host for basketball. And he says he was like addicted to beetroot juice and drinking beetroot just for cardiovascular health.
Yeah, so like some got people.
Was every day you play.
Yeah, so some people who have like cholesterol, blood pressure issues, you can do it because vasodilation just means your blood vessels open. So that's why if you're at the gym, all the guys have pump formulas. It just opens the veins so you can get more blood in
Like
that
that.
muscle.
No, sorry.
We'll show you taking your shirt off.
Okay, interesting. No, that's good.
Yeah,
last thing, what's your thoughts on greens? Because I know a lot of people are always recommending it now, AG1 and this and that.
I think you're
your veggies
I
in.
think you're a huge lover of Huberman, who sells athletic greens, and, I'm pretty sure he has a huge stake in it as well. I don't think it's basically you're taking a powdered form of a multivitamin.
Yeah.
I think that anything you want to add, if you can afford it, the foundation of your eating, if you're having an abundance of fresh fruit, vegetables, salad and stuff like that through your normal diet, and then having that on top is fine. But if you're trying to substitute that with your greens, that's a no-go. Because you're basically not having the form of, because usually with certain, with these natural foods, like, the veggies and the fruit and so forth, they have all the elements to help you absorb it.
True.
So you're taking stuff that conceptually may have all the elements, but because it's not put together in a certain way naturally, then it may not be absorbed like it would if it was from a natural source, potentially. You can argue about that all day.
Speaking of Huberman, you reckon he's nutty?
I saw that one when he was carrying that rock. He was jacked, and he's like 40. So that's what we were speaking about before. I think it's like we're speaking about doctors before we jump on the podcast. About I was saying like huge respect for doctors in terms of their intelligence levels and their understanding of the human body and diseases. But I find that a lot of them are curative, and like when you go to a doctor to look at your blood work, it's just as long as you're in a range, they're like you're fine. What we talk about as like performance dietitians in this realm, and what you're obviously interested in, we all are, is like optimization, as corny as that sounds. So like how do we become, I don't just want to be fine or within the range, I want to be as healthy as possible.
Peak and longevity.
Yeah. So
Do you know who Peter Attia is?
I love
the
Peter.
doctor,
Yeah.
MD,
Because he's a longevity coach. Like he does a lot. Have you seen his type of
I've seen his type of information, but again, like for the general person, it's very hard to implement the level of what he has. And these guys who do implement usually have a lot of money, and they have a lot of medical teams specifically telling him what to do. They're basically just shoveling stuff in at that point.
And Peter Tier comes with a lot of jargon as well.
And that's when I talk about Huberman and stuff. Like I'm not saying he's natty or he's not, but he talks about a lot of things.
If you were to predict,
I would say he's not.
Yeah.
Because he's on that more dates, more plates thing. He's spoken about his previous TRT cycles. So I think that what the element to all these kind of podcasts or I don't like is the fact that they say push a subject like what's those like Tribulus and these natural testosterone enhancers and talk about the studies and stuff like that when you're obviously just taking exogenous versions of testosterone, you're injecting it in your system.
You don't use it, and the only thing you promote is the stuff that you have personal stake in.
Yeah, then there's obviously they're doing the right things by saying that the dangers around testosterone use and therapies and using what we all know as PEDs, but if you're talking about longevity and they're doing it the way they're doing it, but that's fine, and obviously individually, if you're with a professional who knows what they're doing, that's fine, but most of the time it's not with a professional, and they're also pushing products that the research isn't deep enough, and they're also not getting to that level of, like, if you see him, he looks amazing.
he does.
He's jacked, he's lean, and I'm gonna go spend $200-300, $400, $500 a year on these roots, or have ashwagandha and all this kind of stuff. I'll look like him. That's what you're basically selling. You're selling that I'm promoting this product and I look like this. And if you've got a stake in that company, where's the ethics?
Yeah.
I remember the Aussies were hating on Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, he's
'cause
juiced to the
taken
gills.
everything, and then he started selling his fitness
app.
program.
He's doing like a couple bicep curls. The guy, he can't even move.
It's like, how can you? Because obviously everyone idolizes his body, and it's like, how can you be selling this program? You know, it's like,
But it's causing. It's the whole thing. Like again, is causing huge body dysmorphia.
Oh, 100%,
like all these,
yeah.
or like you see all these people, and then if you they all slowly come out and they're like, oh, I'm on this, or
Yeah.
these top end guys are on this and this and stuff like that. And I think that's obviously causing a huge other health epidemic, which is the body dysmorphia, the psychology behind it, and the extreme measures that we all know.
Yeah.
We can see in today's gyms what young men are doing to reach a vision they see on Instagram constantly. And same with women as well. Like if you see girls, it's small waist, big bum, legs, and the guys have got like 6-pack abs, jacked to the gills, everywhere else, and just like, what is the level of, where's the realism to it? And you see people will literally cash in on that constantly because you're selling your image, and you're like, here's a diet plan, and you're not directly saying it. You're saying, oh, look at me, I'm giving you the advice. This is my
This is how
diet
you get
plan.
there.
But it's in reality, it's not true.
And it's a cookie cutter program because you're spending $99 for 6 weeks.
And you can make an argument for like let's just say the top, like let's say Leon Edwards, for example. He's probably one of the most aesthetically built fighters in the fight game. Yeah, you can make an argument for them because they're professionals. They're doing this whole rigid process. Yeah. But then when you got a regular guy who's like Simon Panda or something along those lines, yes, is it Simeon or Simon?
Simeon,
same thing. Anyway,
oh, he had a huge, that new range he came out was wild.
Yeah,
you have like liquid fat burner at night and stuff. But like like Leon Edwards. But you look at like Leon Edwards. Yeah. Genetically, I know for a fact he eats well year round. He trains really hard. Like Izzy obviously has like a fantastic physique, and in real life he's fucking huge. Yeah. But then look at Strickland. Yeah. Who beat him? Yeah. He was like he's crushing cans of beer like every day. Like he's got a slot bod. Yeah. But no one's going like, oh, I want to look like Strickland. You want to fight like him, but you don't want to look like him.
Exactly.
So it's like, I think that's another element to all this, what we're talking about, like longevity and stuff like that. Like what's pushing, what are you actually trying to do? Are you trying to push your internal agenda to look a certain way because you feel like you have to, or do you actually want to be healthy? Yeah, true. Because I don't align, because what we're saying about like DEXs and stuff like that, that say you both, or all three of you could be 12% body fat, and you could all feel completely different. So you might feel fantastic, testosterone's normal, and you could be like, I feel horrible, and then you go get your testosterone checked, because genetically or just your personal physiology, that you'll actually find that you'll feel better at different body fat percentage because your body likes to be a certain way. Like I spoke to one of my fighters, he's like, I like to be at like 15%, I'm fucking firing. I don't get injured, I feel fucking great. He's still jacked, he's just got a bit more body fat, his testosterone's good, he feels great. And when he gets down to 10, he looks like, you're like, oh, I want to look like that. But he goes like, man, I feel horrible. Yeah. Like he goes like, you know, his libido is like non-existent. So that's like, it's finding out, like on this journey of whatever you're going to do, is finding out what works for you. That's why I stress to everyone, like you may not never have the abs, but you may be super healthy. You might feel good. You might be, you know, because why would you want to be shredded to lean, but you can't function as a man? Yeah, true. Especially as a man. Yeah. You know, I want to transition the conversation to sleep. How much diet plays in regards to sleep? I think sleep's a huge component of the outcomes. So if you're trying to lose weight, gain weight, be healthy, having an adequate amount of sleep is incredibly vital. Someone who has great sleep and they're eating well, they'll lose weight at a quicker rate for someone who's eating just as well and having terrible sleep. So it's just like, and then for other markers, so for example, mental health, if you have a bad night's sleep, there's a scale of mental health. Yeah. If you have a bad night's sleep, you can drop down to a state of like real low mood. Yeah. And also it affects your hunger cues. So your brain chemistry changes when you've had a terrible night's sleep. So you'll actually be more driven to eat high calorie, sugary foods because your brain feels like it's in a deficit basically of energy. So your food choices get changed. Yeah. So that's a huge component. I think another component we don't really talk about, a lot of people, is like marijuana. Like smoking weed at night, and like others, it's similar with like Valiums and sleeping tablets. It doesn't actually, it's a sedative. So it prevents you, I don't know, people who've smoked weed before, like you'll wake up in the morning and you've had 8-10 hours and you feel I'm still tired. Yeah. And you've actually just sedated yourself and you've prevented yourself from getting to the restorative components. Sleep. Yeah, so the restorative components of sleep you don't enter. That's why when you take Valiums or you've smoked weed but you don't feel great in the morning, because generally you've just sedated yourself. So you're preventing yourself to get into that deep restorative part of sleep. That's another component. 'Cause everyone's like, I need weed to sleep. But I'm like, you're actually setting yourself up to be in
I listened to a podcast yesterday, George Jenker, who was with Andrew Tate, and he's like, I need weed every night to unwind. That's what I take.
Who George does?
George Jenker was saying that to
I
Andrew
thought he
Tate.
cut it.
Andrew Tate was giving him advice like, nah, you shouldn't take it.
Yeah.
But,
Andrew,
what do you-
we're going to talk about Andrew Tate next. We go on that one too.
but what do you
I don't think he's a good ambassador for the Islamic community, but anyway.
Actually, I want to ask a question about Andrew Tate. How much of it? Yeah.
Jesus.
No, because Andrew Tate made a tweet the other day. I just realized, and going back to like the Simeon Panda, the Hemsworths and all that kind of stuff. People that just say, "Hey, I look like this and I do such and such." Yeah. What's your thoughts on him saying the two? What was it say? He said the two craziest products you can take, or like supplements or whatever. Nicotine one and caffeine. He goes nicotine first thing in the morning, straight after caffeine. And
Nicotine is the oldest nootropic of studied of man.
Yeah.
So like smoking, obviously, like smoking has nicotine. Like they've said that it does actually have nootropic properties. That's why people, for the longest of time, have chewed it, smoked it. Obviously, because it's addictive, but there's a huge nootropic component of it. And obviously, caffeine is a huge element in terms of a stimulant. But for exercise, the reason I say to all my clients, obviously, generally just in the morning, have caffeine before training because it delays the onset or the perception of fatigue. So you can actually train longer for less the concept of fatigue.
adenosine receptors and stuff. Yes,
Like almost as soon as you wake up, almost like as soon as possible, or is like should you like?
I don't want to say. I know you love Huberman. So the whole thing
against it.
Huberman says 90 minutes or so.
He says 90 minutes.
And everyone's
I think getting up in the morning, getting sunlight, and getting that.
Lemon and salt.
No.
I knew that's it.
No. I'll tell you what I do. Right. So this is why. So I'll get up in the morning. I'll have a liter with electrolytes. Shout out Trainaid. No, it's Geordie's company's Trainaid.
By the way, Trainaid, you've got to sponsor us. Reply back to us.
Who?
Trainaid.
They said they'll send some samples to his house. And
that's Jordan's company.
Is that Jordan?
Yeah.
Set it up
I did have a chat with Jordan.
Oh, it might have been Dean. So I get up.
Or Dean?
I get up and I have water. I have a liter with electrolytes. I go for a walk. On that walk, I immediately go get myself coffee.
Yeah.
I have black coffee and I get the sun exposure just for the circadian rhythm to reset it. But yeah, I don't really wait 90 minutes. I'm not doing that.
Have you ever done it?
I love coffee, man.
Yeah, so
I love coffee. I'm not giving that up.
Yeah.
My whole thing in the morning is like I literally get up. I get up in the morning and I literally I have a shower. I'm thinking that my long black.
Yeah.
I'm going for that walk around Brunswick.
Yeah.
I'm like that's my
you know why? It all
setter.
makes sense. This guy's from Brunswick, bro.
Yeah.
Like you can't get any better. So what's your order?
Wake up, shower, water, electrolytes, walk, coffee.
What's the coffee order?
Long black.
Straight long
or
black.
long mac.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got called fancy for long mac.
Long Mac's pretty good.
Yeah, long macs. Everyone called me fancy the other day. Like,
wow. Top 3 coffee spots in Melbourne. Cafes.
oh my god! I just go to the one near my house.
Okay.
Saney. It's pretty good.
Yeah, simple man.
It takes too long to make the coffee, but other than that, it tastes good.
It's worth the wait.
Yeah.
So what about like in terms of how much caffeine to take, like before training or even throughout your day?
Well,
dealing with the elite athletes as well, how much does that impact their training?
Well, I say like because obviously it has a long it stays in your system for a long time. Yeah. So generally, I say don't take it after, like say midday, because it can affect your sleep. But they say between it was like what
3 to 9.
3 to 6.
3 to 6.
9, you'll have a panic attack.
I know that's the number I heard. 3 to 9.
I think you can do that. So but 3. I think 3 is enough to start.
More than enough.
More than enough. I think I've tried 6. Obviously, I've self-experimented.
No.
Had a panic attack.
600 milligrams something?
No, so 6 times my body weight. So I'm 85 kilos. I'm 90 now. 90 kilos.
500 milligrams.
So I was like 500 minutes. I was like, remember those days? Do you remember Jack 3D and stuff?
Yeah, I remember hearing it. Yeah, it's blue and white.
You guys don't remember. It was like they used to have like this dietrethylamine. It was like basically
illegal pre-workout.
It was a legal pre-workout. But after that, I had like 500. I'm like, I want to try this because it's obviously what the science says. Horrific. I was like doing kickboxing. I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. I'm panicking. I'm sweating. I felt horrible.
6 times per.
Yeah, so it's 3 to 6. So they say 3 to 6.
For the experience.
I've done.
Don't do it.
Ashraf, you don't want to do it. I tried it once. I don't know how much I had, but the most coffee that I've had in one day was 14 shots.
Yeah, that's horrific.
And I remember I came back home that day, and as like I went to the bathroom straight away.
This is a cultural question, and this is
Go
because
for
of knowledge of Somali people.
Go.
How much sugars did you have with those 14
No,
shots?
no.
Because all my Somali friends is like 1 shot, 3 teaspoons of sugar.
I'm a one sugar person. I'm a one.
So
sugar
14
14
teaspoons of teaspoons of sugar as
roughly that day, yeah. But
Okay.
it depends because, like, for example, long blacks, I wouldn't put sugar in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna
So it
say.
depends. There was a lot going on there that
Yeah.
day. Anyway, that day I came back home, and I remember this was a problem when, as I entered the bathroom, it's quiet, whatever, you can hear your own heartbeat.
I thought you were going to say something like you couldn't control your bowels. That's
No.
not the one that can happen.
Nah,
that's-
I could hear my own heartbeat.
14.
And 14
Do
shots.
you know how much is in like milligrams is in a shot? Like,
Oh, what
like
do they say?
60 to
60
80.
to, yeah, 80, 90, 90, around that much. So I had, ever since then, I was just like, let me just like relax.
So then, how much are you having then?
Now, I used to have 2 long blacks a day, so that's 4 shots a day. Now I generally just have 1 in the morning.
Rookie.
Wow.
I know. But I used to be like, just like working. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Without realizing.
depends on your lifestyle. If you do intermittent fasting, or one meal, some people just use it to like suppress their appetite. But 1 is more than enough if you time it right.
And it was it was affecting my anxiety levels. Then I could actually tell,
That's
I actually
a
feel
problem.
more anxious doing this. And I was like getting all sweaty. I was like sweating on my underarms. I'm like, this is not normal. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, caffeine.
Caffeine's great for the pre-workout though.
What about the elite athletes? Are they taking a fair amount or not really? Like
Depends. I don't think trying to be really specific with numbers with certain people is not going to happen. But like generally, I say like double shot before you go, and depending what like nationality, like some of like my fighters in the UAE, ridiculous. Like I was with them.
Yeah, they
and we're at
drink
dinner.
But
and
they
they
drink coffee before they sleep and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, and there's actually like it's like a known thing that certain nationalities and certain people actually don't
A lot of Arabs
get the
tell me
effect
that.
of
A
it.
lot
Yeah,
of Arabs
it's actually
tell
a
me
genetic thing they don't have that doesn't actually affect them.
They have it before they sleep.
Yeah.
My auntie
and
is
it's
Yeah,
like-
100%,
It's like
yeah.
a shot as well. It's
Yeah.
like, how does that work?
Ethiopians are the same as well.
You like that?
They
Yeah.
have that, crazy. On the sleep thing, while we're talking about sleep, magnesium, how well does that play in regards to sleep? Because
Yeah, but like again,
it depends.
what are you doing in terms of like, are you off your phone? Like, are you minimalizing your blue light? Are you like playing PlayStation or you're watching a movie in your bed? Like, what's your routine? Like, you should be getting up at the same time in the morning, trying to go to sleep at the same time to start that rhythm.
True.
Are you doing like the proper things, like, minimizing your exposure to like blue lights? Not saying that's the worst thing in the world, but it's going to obviously affect it. Do you have good sleep hygiene? Which is like, sleep hygiene is like, obviously, your room has to be to a certain level of coolness to help you sleep. Certain things you can do, like hot shower, bath, that helps you get in that zone. Like, are you doing all those things? And if you have a real problem with like racy mind, maybe do meditation. If you're doing all those things, adding in the magnesium can be fantastic. But again, I would say look at the sleep hygiene in your routine first, and then add that in as a benefit.
Just the extra. Do you try to get like 8 hours a day? Is it 9, 7?
I think like they say, like if you're training, like say like an elite athlete, I don't do this, but like if you're training 2, 3, 4 times a day, then it's more realistic, like 9 to 10 hours you should be getting. But if you're an
once a day, like us, or twice, like.
yeah, I'd say 8 hours minimum. I try to get at 8 hours minimum, 9
of
if a good
sleep
day.
or window of sleep.
Window. I usually go to bed at like 8:30. Get up at like 6, 5:30, 6, depending how I
Dude,
feel.
you still see the sun now.
Yeah, no, I like blackout.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Eye mask.
Sleep.
But yeah, but it
hygiene.
depends. Like some people need it, some people more. Some people naturally need less.
Yeah. You use
Eye
eye mask?
mask.
In
No.
Thailand, these guys stay up, and so I use my eye mask, and I put my eye mask on because the light's still on, and these guys started laughing at me. Yeah.
That's
so
just
funny.
not good sleep
Do you have
hygiene.
a skin routine too?
Nah, I wish I was actually going to talk to you about that.
I have a skin routine.
That's what I need to talk to you about, because
Yeah.
but on the I have a nighttime routine there, because like temperature, like in the room,
You
how I
do?
sleep. Yeah, try to things I do before I sleep
Do you
to
follow
wind
it?
down. What?
Do you follow it every day? Like, is it
As much as you can. Obviously, different days. Like sometimes when we do recordings, I leave here like 10 and I live an hour away. So then I get home 11, and then it's like you're just rushing. You're gonna.
What's the
you know?
temp you got your room at? Like what, 18 or something?
It's supposed to be 18, but I don't get an AC in my room. It's more like
Yeah. So
I
how
put
do
a fan on, but I
Yeah.
sleep semi-naked. So they say you sleep like
that's good.
you sleep semi-naked, like in shorts or whatever. It's like
You're very dedicated. I'm very
it's
impressed.
Matthew
You
Walker.
got-
Yeah,
you
Matthew,
got-
Matthew Walker.
That's a good book. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
And
why we sleep for everyone.
And he also speaks about food, the importance of food.
Of course.
That's one thing I
Yeah,
implemented.
not going to bed too overly full is obviously
3
important.
hours, is that what they say? Or do you not
I don't
care?
know who can do that.
Not even.
I'm
I
starving.
tried.
I've tried. I'm
Nah,
starving
losing
when
it.
I get to bed.
It's nearly his bedtime. I just realized you should do.
No. I stay up sometimes.
Yeah.
No, but like I usually have my last meal like 6:30. I go to bed like 8:30.
But not even that. Also, like not going to sleep too hungry, or else that like activates that flight and fight in you.
100%. But you can obviously there's no perfection. Like you're never gonna be perfect at it. Like
Yeah.
how many times you're gonna go out for a meal and then you come home and
It's just consistently good.
you never time I go out and people are like, oh, you're a dietitian, do you do this? I'm like, no. I fully binge eat sometimes.
Yeah.
Impressively too.
Hey, on the record, I gave him a Lindt chocolate before the episode. By the way.
And you took it, yeah.
Okay, I need to ask the skincare question because this has been important to me. Just in case I want to ask something and I need to interrupt. So
There you
recently I've been breaking out and stuff like that, and I'm trying to. It's obviously like I don't know why it is. Is it stress? Is it diet and stuff like that? So diet, I've been trying to like remove foods. It's like a test run, and that's why I thought it was dairy.
Yeah.
So I recently thought dairy is the reason I broke out. So now today's Thursday? Like the last 11 days, I haven't had any dairy.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, is that like it's like a test run?
Is it working?
It's still day 11. I felt a bit better. Like there's nothing like but it's hard because it's like, what else are you doing? So
It depends. Some people
even said like protein shakes. Like I don't know.
depends. Like it could be certain additives for sure. Some people are lactose intolerant. Like it's like 70% of Asians are lactose intolerant.
Do you know what type of Asians?
I think.
Like is it because when you said like Indians? Is it
No,
Chinese?
I think it's mainly like it's cultures that don't. Well, I
drink
suppose
a lot of. Oh,
yeah, cultures don't have like dairy.
okay.
But I think I think you can do it. Like it's an elimination when someone has like they think they have an intolerance to a food. You have an elimination diet, so you basically go back to very little and then slowly introduce things or take them out.
That's
If
what I was trying to do.
If your diet's not changed, like maybe it's the additives in your protein shake that you've
Or
tried
maybe
that.
it's the type of milk.
How
Like,
many? Yeah.
Do you buy organic? Because that's something you're conscious of, or do you buy home brand?
My missus has a lactose intolerance, but we buy the Zimmel.
Yeah. Okay. But then I have like general other stuff because like sometimes you look at the ingredient list and it's longer than
Yeah, but what's changed for you when you break out? It could be stress. It could be
I
the
don't
fact
think it's
that
stress,
like summer gnats, you're sweating more.
Sort of stressed guy would say. Yeah.
Not a stress guy.
Well, I do grind my teeth, but
You're
that's
not stressed at all.
nah.
you graduated.
Which is the main reason.
How much water do you drink per day?
Now, because the challenge like 3.5.
That's good. Too.
Okay.
How is the challenge going?
Pretty
Good,
good.
man.
This guy's finishes tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh,
day
beautiful.
74,
He's on
yeah.
day 74.
And I bet the first
Get
thing
some
you're
more
gonna do
water.
is just not train and eat heaps of food.
Yeah, I'm not training at all. I think my cousins wanted to train on the Saturday. I'm like, nah,
Yeah, there you
can't
go.
train.
So now he's off training. That's why it doesn't work.
That's
Yeah.
one day. Hater.
Take a rest
I'm
day.
not a hater. Like, I
Rest
think it's
day.
great if it turns your like the majority of you guys obviously don't drink, so like it's usually used for people who are coming off the back end of living a pretty horrendous lifestyle to change
Yeah.
patterns where you guys probably live a, obviously a not a party lifestyle, I wouldn't say, for meeting you and obviously your religious values, but I think it's obviously a good thing to challenge yourself. I think everyone needs like a little thing to keep them on track.
We know some people that
You
have done
take
it
something,
recently.
yeah.
We know some people that have done it recently, and we talk about them like doing the challenge. Like the guy did 75 hard, and now he doesn't train at all. I'm just thinking like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so some people either go.
Like-
There's two ways to it. Some like you'll either like obviously you'll take a little bit away from it. You'll take like 20% of it. You'll instill for the rest of your life, and there'll be the 80%. You'll be like, I don't want to do that extra.
Yeah, I'm not going to continue twice a day. That's
exactly.
Not
Yeah,
realistic.
But if you do 10,000 steps, you're technically walking 45 minutes a day.
I'm saying
So- and
this
then
is
the
this is
workout.
the argument I have with all these like motivational guys and this level of like hard and like tough and all that stuff. Like it's become like there's no balance in this. Like you can't live. Life has to be balanced. You have a wife. You said you have to spend time with her. When you have kids, you have there's got to be balance. And if you have that mentality that when things happen like children or family things, you don't know how to adapt because you only know one style. So why don't we promote things that are more realistic? How do we find balance for everyone or for specific individual balance? Like that's now why people coming out. There's like a dietitian for parents. There's a dietitian for combat sport athletes. Like figure out something that is more sustainable and works for everyone rather than just these extreme situations. And most of these people don't even follow what they preach. It's just like the sales technique.
You reckon these motivational gurus that You reckon the 75 hard challenge is a product from motivational gurus the same way that like Simeon Panda's got those fat burners and that?
Yeah, I think it's, you know what I think? I think everyone, I've always said this, everyone needs their own crusade.
Yeah, true.
So I think that, like, what we were speaking about before, like people reverting, like specifically fighters reverting to Islam.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for something that maybe is going to be a positive influence in their life. And then maybe reverting to another religion is too extreme for someone, or it requires too much change. But doing something like that is like you're looking for something to positively change your life. And that's something. Because a lot of people, not saying you guys, but a lot of people, everyone I know who starts 75 hard will post on Instagram every day about 75 hard. Although there's literally guys who've started Instagram accounts, have got like 50,000 followers, which is like day 7 of 75 hard. And some guy with his top, there's some guy with his top off. I've been following. I'll be honest with you.
Hey,
He's going to his shirt off. I'm doing carnivore for 75 days. He's got his shirt off every time. So I'm saying everyone's looking for their own crusade. And I think like that's fair enough. But I'm saying what I'm trying to do when I work with people is trying to figure out like how can we do all these things? Like how do we bridge the gap between these podcasts, university, and what's realistic to everyone? Mm-hmm. Because all that stuff is that you can fall off your supplement regime, all this stuff. But if you drink your 3.5 litres of water, the majority of your diet's from whole foods, you train consistently 4 to 5 times a week, all these things, if you do them, then you will fundamentally
like
be a healthy person and you'll have the longevity, you'll feel good, your skin will be clear, all these positive things. But if you're starting to think, if you concentrate on all these things that we're promoted or instilled that we have to focus on, which are really fundamentally just the small intricacies, then it becomes too overwhelming. So it's like, well, unless I'm getting up and I'm not drinking coffee in 90 minutes after, and I'm not taking something Agrestis and Tribulus and this stuff, my testosterone won't work. Unless I eat carnivore and I get 50 hours of sleep a night and all these kind of things, and I don't smoke weed and I don't do this and all this stuff, then you're setting yourself up to always feel horrible, and then you'll end up just being like, I'm just going to do whatever. But if you just go, it's as simple as drinking enough water, having whole foods, exercising, living a healthy lifestyle, meditating, and meditating can be anything. When you guys pray 5 times a day, that's a different version of meditation. Like it's whatever these things that are psychologically, physically beneficial, that's what you need to concentrate on rather than these really intricate specifics. That's why I think the fundamental problem.
Life's not black or white, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that when you ask me about all these elite guys like Izzy and Leon, yeah, they're fully dedicated. They train really hard, but they're also not perfect. And like we say, like some of the stuff that I use with like my top end international athletes, I will use the same principles with the guy who just wants to go to the gym 5 times a week, because it's the same thing, because we're creating realistic foundations that everyone can use. And yeah, at different levels, you have to be more strict or more loose at the bottom end, but fundamentally it's just getting the basics right. As boring as that sounds. Like I could make a lot of money if I just came and go, today guys, I have the ultimate diet for you. And then everyone will be like, sweet, I want to buy that. But that's obviously not realistic.
Sells, yeah.
No, definitely.
Honestly, he just summed up like every other question you could possibly have.
I wanted to touch on the gut micro biome conversation. Because where do I attack this question?
Do you buy probiotics, prebiotics? Do you take any of that stuff?
No, not even that. I think because a lot of people think about like the food that they eat and how that affects them, but then they also think about how like the psychological, the mental side of things. You know what I mean? But they call the gut like the second brain.
Have you heard of the gut-brain axis?
Yes. So I did my master's looking at the effects of at a high-fat diet, basically, in metabolic. It's called mouse that had metabolic syndrome, and my friend, her research was actually on the gut microbiome axis or whatever, the gut-brain axis. Sorry. And I was like, I wish I had done my research on that, because the brain is my like most fascinating organ. Like if there's one organ that I just love, it's the brain, you know? But I never got time to like delve into that and all that kind of stuff. But for our listeners and the everyday people, what can you tell us about the gut microbiome and how nutrition affects it?
I don't think, like obviously I'm not an expert in it, but I think that what we're talking about is creating a healthy digestive system. Mm-hmm. So that's why they stress eating an abundance of fibre. So you should get 28 to 35 grams of fibre per day. Mm-hmm. having an abundance of fresh fruit and vegetables of numerous colours, and having a diet that is low in processed foods. So you obviously, again, like the boring principles that we spoke about, is like the fundamentals, and making sure you have an abundant, drinking lots of water, having lots of fibre, having lots of fruit and veg, having lots of unprocessed foods, because that is what feeds good gut bacteria, and that's what is seen to then have that positive effect on the brain in terms of mood state, food choices, all those kind of things. And then it goes back to, again, because then you make better choices because you feel better, you're trying to honour it, like it's just a natural process, and it goes back and it keeps feeding itself. Because that's the problem with what people do, is that, you know, processed foods isn't bad, but if it's the majority of your diet, you're not feeding it. And like probiotics and prebiotics, they're great, but probiotics only work for as long as you use them. So when you stop using them, that specific benefit, so probiotics is a very general term, and a lot of different probiotics and different groups have different benefits. But as soon as you stop using that, 2 weeks later, that benefit's gone.
Yeah.
So what you, again, some people might, you have to reset it, but what you're fundamentally doing is someone goes, I want to be as healthy as possible, I want to feel good again, as long as you don't have any intolerances and stuff. Get your fibre intake, get your water intake, get your fruit and veg, really minimise your processed foods and additives and all those kind of things, and then you'll see the change.
What role does fibre play?
Fibre is just, it's basically, because obviously it's just a part of the plant or the carbohydrate, whatever the item you're eating is, that just helps kind of feed the bacteria. So, you know, it's undigestible component of the food, so it kind of goes to that system. And obviously it also helps your bowel movement. So you're helping that, the whole process from mouth to anus become more efficient. That's when you have better bowel movements, you'll feel better.
Is there a way you can tell you got low fibre other than constipation and is a hard stool?
It depends. Some people have different types. Like some, it's like again.
I'm not asking for myself, by the way.
If you want to go through poo, we can go to poo as well, because different people have different. Some people like
it's not for me.
It can be like bowel movements can be heavily altered by, like, some people have like it's called.
Go on.
It's like a version of IBS, but it's started by anxiety. So some people get like literal diarrhea because of their anxiety levels or their mental health. So it's like different things can happen. Coffee intake, so maybe have intolerances. So it's really hard to figure out what is the actual thing. But if you're aiming for like 30 grams a day, that's what you should be doing.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon on your Instagram you gave a lot of food, like recommendations and meals and stuff you did for athletes. Is that a Combat Dietitian and the Fight Dietitian are the two places for people to find out more and stuff about you and everything you do?
Yeah, so we have so obviously our main account, we feed everything to the main account, which is Geordie's account, which is the Fight Dietitian, at the Combat Dietitian, but we collaborate on our posts now, so it's like we try to show different sides. That we have like really science-based stuff, we have some like science ones related to like myth busting, which really causes a massive stir. If you say seed oils are good, then you're going to get murdered.
They were my two questions at the end. I just remembered them.
What?
I feel like you're a conspiracy guy. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah. But I want to ask you a question.
I'm definitely not a conspiracy guy.
What's one conspiracy you believe in?
Let's say if you believe in one, you believe in all.
You reckon?
Yeah, that's
I've heard that.
I'm not a conspiracy guy. Like I think
sorry for labeling you that, by the way.
No. I don't think I'm a conspiracy guy. Not a conspiracy guy. I don't even know what conspiracy.
Like 9/11, Area 51.
Like, I'll give you an example just to make it a bit easier. So,
Princess Diana.
My friend Ashraf over there believes that, like, Princess Diana.
Be careful, because I don't know, you might be aerating right now.
The royal.
You put me in a position because 9/11 goes straight for the Islamic one on the podcast. Yeah, put the white guy on the No. One theory I do actually that the 9/11 was a.
Yeah, it was
hoax.
Yeah.
Supposedly, there was a map.
Yeah.
Of that region that had certain oil companies already there before it started.
Yeah.
No, but generally, like in terms of nutrition stuff, it's not that I'm a conspiracy theorist. Like I think that everyone, like these ultra processed foods are not dangerous per se. So there's always nowadays, which I think is in every spectrum, is there's no one in between. You're either a seed oil lover or you hate it.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, those seed oil people are retarded. Or these people who don't believe in seed oil, they're retarded. Yeah. There's no in between. So maybe it's like, because there was like, I remember my mum was like, I was drinking a can of Pepsi Max. Mum's like, did you see? Yeah. That causes cancer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, does it?
Yeah.
But then it came out that to even have the smallest percentage of risk, you had to have like 30, 40 cans a day, every day, to even have a small percentage of risk.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like, again, if you research or you search for your narrative, which is now everyone's prerogative, you just search what you agree with. So if
You're
you
gonna
search
find
seed oils are bad, of course it's going to come up. It's called cherry
Eventually,
picking.
yeah.
You're just cherry picking the information you want and ignoring the stuff. So my whole thing is just like, look at everything in between. So I don't say, like, a lot of people, like dietitians, like, no, eat seed oils. I'm like, well, maybe we'll have to look more into it, see if that affects you or how that makes you feel. Maybe ultra processed foods aren't great for you specifically, but look at it in a kind of in a way that honors both sides, so you can come into your own conclusion. Stop following people, especially if they're like, there's a guy called for the carnivore. His name's Carnivore MD.
Oh,
So MD. So what would you say? Medical doctor.
Yeah, I think this is
You know what he's medical doctor in? Psychiatry.
Yeah.
wow.
And he goes, I've studied nutrition. But I guarantee you, when he studied these concepts, he's cherry picked. He's a very intelligent man, has got a lot of good points, but also he's feeding his own narrative.
Calls out every item, yeah.
And people who follow him, are just like, oh, well, he's right, but he's feeding his own narrative. And then what does he own?
What is that?
He's probably has a stake in.
He has products. You know, he's like, eat liver, eat heart, whatever. He has heart and soil supplements.
Wow.
Which sell dried heart, liver, those products.
People don't want to
So again, he says that's because he's found this diet and lifestyle, but it's also this concept of, we can go real conspiracy when we talk about capitalism.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's a conspiracy, but yeah, capitalism. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
it's like the Liver King. Liver King was the one of 2023.
See how many who didn't know he was on steroids? He's also he's also 4'2". Like, anyone can look big when you're 4'2".
When you're 4'2", yeah. But when he came out, he tried even defending that. But I was going to ask one last question to end things off. People think of seeing a psychologist. They think of seeing a doctor, a physiotherapist. How often should people see like a nutritionist, a dietitian?
I think that not so much a doctor these days, unless you have like a issue. I think psychologists, I think everyone should see. I'll just put that in. I just wanted to add that because I think everyone, especially males these days, like I'm a big supporter of men's mental health specifically, but everyone's mental health. So I wanted to add that. I think that everyone should see a psychologist. I think especially men should be encouraged to go see that because we all need help. But in terms of a dietitian specifically, like obviously dietitians, we're educated to help people with medical conditions. That's what separates. We can give you nutrition medical therapy. So basically we can help people who've got diabetes and so forth. But I think that if you're someone who's interested in your overall health, longevity and those kind of things, I think that everyone at some point in their life should seek a dietitian or a experienced nutritionist to understand the basics of nutrition, because just as exercise is important, just as mental health is important, nutrition is basically one of the largest foundations of your overall health. And if you're someone who's active and you want to optimize your life in terms of your training and how you feel in life and your mental health, that nutrition alongside exercise is like fundamental. So I would encourage anyone to one point in your life seek it out.
And even, the blood test we spoke about earlier, like getting a proper blood test, how often should people be doing that, especially even young guys in their 20s?
I think like if you're young and you get like you have a healthy lifestyle, getting it like once a year will be fine, more than fine, because if your markers are and during that time of in the good ranges and of optimal health, if you're someone who's not have optimal markers, or if you're in your mid to late 30s, maybe every 3 to 6 months, depending what your levels are. But I think everyone should get it between 1 to 2 times a year, just to have a little baseline understanding of what you're doing. And depending how your lifestyle is, it may change.
Okay, very interesting.
And also, or to add in your family history. Mm-hmm. So if you have heart disease in your family history, or you have cancers or low iron or vitamin D, that you should always get checked.
Yeah.
That wasn't racist.
No, you're good. I think we're 1 for 1. The conspiracy
theory. Beautiful. That's it.
Without further ado,
we just got to thank you, man. Honestly, we appreciate it so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on. I feel like you spread so much knowledge. I think it's a good way for people to start 2024 as well, that hopefully they can like listen and build some good habits, 'cause especially everyone always says new year, new me. They want to start New Year's resolutions. I think nutrition, if people start dialing that in It's a very good thing to know. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having
and
me.
Train Aid, reply back to the DM.
Yeah. Shout out Geordie and Dean.
Beautiful.
Go for it. Without further ado, guys, you know the drill. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. And if you haven't already, like, share, subscribe. See you next week. Peace.